Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Live It Up Show. This is where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good, because ultimately, that's what we all want. We want to feel good. And you know what feels good? Being back at this show. And being back with you. It's been a few months, and it feels really good to be here connecting with you. If you're watching, I'm here for you, so welcome. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher Ellingson. Amy will be with us today as well. We're going to be talking about a number of things that I think are really helpful to discuss. We're going to be talking about our families. We're going to be talking about our communities. Our world has been through a lot over the past 6 months, and we're still going through it. And there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of burnout. There's a lot of anxiety and challenge and fear and upset, which is why I'm looking forward to this important conversation today, because I want to take this opportunity to look at some of the things that are working, some of the things that feel good despite the challenges that are before us. I want to pause. I want to shift the conversation so that we feel good, because when we feel good, we take actions that are in alignment with feeling good, and that creates momentum that ultimately serves our life. And we're talking here about mental health, right? We're talking about mental health. Remember, health is the first wealth, so stick around and join a feel-good conversation. But before we get to that, I want to remind you that if you have questions that you would like us to answer on or off the air, you can email me directly at fletcher@fletcherellingson.com. You don't need to suffer, because there are answers and solutions and ways to get unstuck and move forward powerfully. You know, we talk a lot on this show about reaching out, and it's a sign of strength, and it really is. Some people say that you're weak if you ask for help. Well, that's not accurate. The accurate story is that when people ask for help or advice or counsel, it means you're strong. And when you get the help you need to move forward, it also puts you in a position to pay it forward and help others. And when you think about it, it's really quite a cool concept, isn't it? The more people that are doing well, the more people that feel good, and the more unity we see, the better our world works. So in light of that, let's get to today's email. It says, "Dear Fletcher, I'm a local here in Wenatchee, and I'm really upset at how long our state has taken to get our businesses back open. It's caused my family and many others a lot of financial and mental hardship. It's like they want us to fail, and they want us to fail for good, and there's nothing we can do about it because they have the final say. What do you do when the cards are stacked against you? I'm feeling really fed up. Signed, SD." All right. This is a great concern. And so SD, thanks for reaching out. As we just said, it's a sign of strength, which means you're strong, okay? And first of all, I want to let you know that I hear your frustration. I hear that you're feeling fed up, and it feels like the cards are stacked against you, and that there's very little that you can do. And I also want you to know there are a lot of people who are feeling the same way you do right now. There's a lot of information, a lot of stories out there that would support the way you feel and the way you see things going. And I'm not going to take any objection to anything you said. And I am going to make a suggestion. And here's the suggestion. I want you to consider your story about how things are going. You see, your story about how things are going doesn't really allow you to feel very good. And it doesn't sound like it empowers you. Now again, I'm not taking anything away from what you've said, but I want you just to consider that your story doesn't feel good and it doesn't empower you. This is important because people generally only take actions that are in alignment with how they're feeling and are in alignment with those beliefs. So what you focus on, you feel. You probably heard me say that a lot of times on this show. What you focus on, you feel. And then what you focus on begins to expand, right? The more you focus on something, the bigger it becomes in your mind. And ultimately, you then manifest that which you're focusing on. So what am I saying here? Well, what I'm saying is, I get that you're upset. And being upset usually gets very predictable results. Being upset usually leads to blame. It can lead to victimization. And neither of those feel good. And it oftentimes leads to an experience of feeling powerless. And that feels terrible. So here's my suggestion. Here's what I really encourage you to do. Change your story a bit. What if you changed your story to something that sounded like this? You know, I know that for the most part, people are doing their best. I know that a lot of people, including the decision makers, are under massive stress and fear of their own, and overwhelm, and even self-doubt. I know that they're trying to figure this out, and I know that there's going to be lots of mistakes made. But I also know this, that I am resourceful, capable, and flexible. I'm still alive, which means that life is working out for me. In fact, as I look back in my life, I see that things usually have worked out for me. Even when I didn't understand the whys or the hows, life was working out for me. And I don't understand the hows and whys of what's going on right now, but I do know that I'm resourceful, capable, and flexible, and I will make it through this. In fact, I am making it through this. And if I imagine 6 to 8 months into the future, if I gap forward 6 to 8 months, I'll bet that there has been significant progress made in all of this. I'll bet businesses are opening and people are getting back to traveling and recreating. And that feels good. It feels good to realize that I am making it through this and that we're all making it through this. And I can see an end in sight. And because of that, I'm feeling confident. I'm feeling confident in this vision because life always works out for me. In fact, I'm going to shift my focus to seeing as many of the positive things that are going on in the world right now because what I focus on feels good. What I focus on, I feel, and I want to focus on the good feeling things, right? So that I will feel good. And I'll take actions then that are in alignment with feeling good. And ultimately, that means I'm part of the solution. And that is an exciting concept. I am part of the solution of moving this entire thing forward simply by focusing on what feels good and noticing what's working. Being part of the solution, that feels awesome. And SD, I realize that this is easier said than done. It's going to take some practice. Right? So my advice is to stop listening so much to the naysayers and get around people who have a positive vision. It doesn't mean you don't take action. In fact, during this whole calamity, I've written my state representatives multiple times. I've called. I've been in action about the things that are important to me. But I choose to support and contribute and listen instead of blame and accuse. So get around people who are making a positive difference and are lifting others up. Create a feel-good, empowering story so you begin to live into it. And finally, I know that you can do this. It'll take practice, but I know you can do this, and I believe in you. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but then we're going to be right back and talk with Amy about what is going well in the world, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Live It Up. I'm Fletcher, your host and coach, and look who's with us. We have Amy.
It's been so long.
It has been long.
I know.
It's been like 6 months or something.
Yeah.
So I'm having fun already.
I know, I can tell. You're excited.
I am. Hey, so you heard the introduction, and we're talking today about some things that feel good, or things that, there's a lot of negative stuff that doesn't feel good we can focus on about this whole thing that's happened. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't really forward the solution. So we can also look at things that feel good, and that feels good. And within it, like I said in the introduction, we're kind of part of the solution.
Can I say one thing about that?
Yes.
Before we go on to the positive things, I do want to say that, especially being a healthcare provider and being in the profession that I'm in, and being faced with having to care for people with COVID and the fear and the regulations and the rules changing all the time and people getting sick and people dying, and I feel like fairly early on in this, I feel like personally and even as a family, I feel like we were faced with, I probably had some of the most anxiety I've had in a long time, maybe ever, where it seemed like every part of my life seemed scary, and that there was, so I think that I felt so lucky to have the tools that we have to where we can really live our lives consciously, because I felt like it came to like basically a choosing place. It's like, am I either, this does not feel good, to be kind of almost sick with fear and anxiety and worry and concern, and the uncertainty was overwhelming, and trying to kind of control every little thing, or I really had to, it was an opportunity to really go with trust, and to really go with trusting myself, trusting the world, trusting that things work out, trusting, whatever I could trust, just really working on trusting. And so I guess I wanted to come back to the show, obviously focusing on the positive, and also acknowledging that it's been a difficult time. And
it has been a difficult time.
Even we have amazing personal development tools and support, and we have an amazing relationship. And so for the folks that are not in a supportive, amazing relationship, or that don't have those tools, I have concerns, and I feel empathy for them, because it's been a tough time, and I love focusing on the positive, and that is what we do. And it doesn't mean that it hasn't been that we haven't had more bumps in the road than we normally have.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, there's been a lot of suffering in the world. There's been, like you said, uncertainty in our personal lives. So we're not trying to diminish that.
Yeah.
We're simply saying we have a choice on which we can focus. And yeah. So thanks for articulating that.
Yeah, sure.
And in light of that, can you share some of the things that arose for you out of this past 6 months that actually it was something positive, or something that did feel good, or it was something, a point of discovery for you?
Yeah. Well, as people might notice, I let my gray hair grow.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that all this stress and tension made me go gray. I already was fairly gray. And I'm 47, so I had thought I was going to wait until I was 50 or something to let my gray hair show. And actually this happened before before the hair salons even shut down. I just was having this sense over the last 6 months before that, so maybe the end of last year even, of just feeling like I was there was something I was hiding about myself, something I wasn't being authentic about, and it didn't feel good. It felt like, oh gosh, my roots are showing, and it's like I had this thing I was pretending to be that I'm not, that I wasn't, that I'm not. And even I remember someone told me, well, luckily you were very supportive, which is great. And someone did tell me, but you're gonna look older. It's like, I know, but is that a bad thing? I am older. I'm not getting younger. So is it okay to look like I'm not 25 anymore? So it hasn't been, I still, when I see myself in pictures, I'm still a little surprised, but it feels good just to be me and to not have anything that I'm pretending that I'm not.
Yeah.
And it worked out well because, actually I colored my own hair. It didn't matter if the salons were open or not, but it seems like now it was a thing that everyone started doing, so I had lots of women doing it with me. Yeah.
And it was just an opportunity for you to embrace that decision, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What else did you enjoy about or that worked well for us?
Yeah, I think that our kids, we have, between the two of us, we have 5 kids, and the 2 younger kids that are still in school usually have a lot of sporting events, other school things. They're usually booked out, from in the morning all the way till evening.
7 to 7.
Yeah. And weekends and tournaments, and even though they were missing those things, although they didn't necessarily mind it that much, I think, it felt really good to slow down. We had them around all the time. We had more time for dinners. We had time for long domino matches.
Yeah.
We had time for
family walks.
And we saw so many people walking around Chelan as with teenagers that we never saw parents and teenagers walking.
Right, yeah, because we usually oftentimes walk the same routes, and we're used to seeing the same people, but then we're like seeing new people and families and
people with teenagers who usually either maybe they didn't want to participate or they just were busy with other things. So I would say that the slowing down, it felt really good to me. I mean, I'm not a huge social butterfly, and I love family time, so it felt really good.
Yeah, it did, and I really enjoyed. We play games a lot in our family anyway, but oh my gosh, we played a lot of games.
Yeah,
lots
and you
of
read
cards.
books and I painted a bit. I mean, it's allowed for. We did home improvement. We kind of, everyone in the country was doing that, right? I think because you didn't spend money on vacations and you had a lot of time. So we've done some really nice things in our home that I hadn't done in, years and years and years and years. So
Yeah.
that feels really good too.
Yeah, it was like this big interruption into our normal pattern, and it allowed for something else to take place just because we had so much time.
Yeah, I think what's cool about when you have your pattern disrupted and everything almost like everything was taken away almost. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, my job wasn't taken away. For a lot of people, it was. That then you get to choose, well, what do you want to put back?
Mm-hmm.
And like what, now that if everything's off the table, maybe you want to leave some of those things off the table,
Yeah.
even when they become available again. So I think it allowed, again, you and I love living our lives really consciously and methodically, and it allowed for even more of that.
Yeah, it did. And it felt good, right?
Yeah. A lot of it felt good. Not all of it feels good, but.
Right. So, hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back and talk about some other things that were surprising and felt good.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm Fletcher Ellingson. This is Amy Ellingson. Hello.
Hello.
Good to be back here with you guys, and today we're talking about feeling good, turning our attention to what feels good, away from the things that don't feel good. Again, we're not trying to diminish what's going on, but we have a choice in how we feel, and that is magnified by what we focus on.
Yeah. So I spent a little bit of time talking about what I have enjoyed and what has felt good during this time.
Yeah.
And so what about you?
Yeah, so like we both said, family time felt really good. It was also a time for me to really reflect on my business, because right when the lockdown happened, my business kind of like tanked. And so instead of freaking out, although there was some concern for sure, but I chose to really take a look at my business, and as you know, I rebranded it entirely.
Yeah.
I got really clear about some core messaging that was very important to me, and a lot of that is actually around the practice of feeling good. So as you tune in regularly to the show, you're going to hear me over and over and over again talking about the practice of feeling good, because I believe that's ultimately what we all want. So that was an opportunity. I also really was I loved seeing the outpouring of love and connection and contribution during this time. You and I were walking through our neighborhood, and we saw some people had put up a sign on their fence, on their chain link fence, and we were like, oh, that's so cool. And then you said, oh my gosh, I want to put up a sign. So we asked the people, hey, can we put a sign up on your fence?
It was like you asked
too?
a little boy.
Yeah.
Can we put a sign up? He's like, let me go ask my parents.
Yeah, right. And then he came back out and said, yeah, they said yes. So, you went home and you made a sign, and did the girls make a sign too? I think the girls made a sign.
I think I made 2 signs.
You made 2 signs, okay. So we
I was
put
just
a couple
enthusiastic.
signs. Yeah, and but anyways, that was really cool. And I remember one day the school teachers from, it was either Manson or Chelan School District.
Both did them, actually.
Both, okay.
Yeah.
But there was all this honking going on, and we were inside, and there was lots of honking. It's like, what's going on? And we looked out the window, and there was just this long parade of all the teachers and school staff just going up and down neighborhoods with signs of encouragement and saying, we love you, we miss you, we're thinking about you. And that was really touching.
Yeah.
Our teachers and our schools have just been, I feel, just outstanding, and they're willingness to be flexible and creative during this time.
Yeah.
So those are a couple things that stuck out for me. I love just the coming together of people. Actually, we hadn't seen our friends for a long time in person, and so we got together on Zoom, and I just remember like how special that felt.
Yeah, it did.
Right? There's this like new level of appreciation for our friends.
Yeah. You just take them for granted a lot of times, but this felt very intentional.
Yeah, and one of our friends was like totally gushing about how much he appreciated us and loved us and missed us, and which seemed out of character for him, right?
Yes, right, for sure.
But I feel like he appreciated or felt the loss, and therefore appreciated our friendships.
Yeah. It definitely makes you that which you cannot have, you start to crave, and when you have it, it feels so good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What else?
What else was also, I think I really tapped into some compassion for the elderly in our community, because unless you are isolated, and we were isolated but had our family, but it just made you think, whoa, there are people who are living in isolation for much of their days.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made me really reflect on that and go, wow, that's lonely. That doesn't feel good. That's a challenge. And so I think it's also what made me want to stay in more contact with, with my dad. And so I feel like we were calling him more and texting him more and sharing more with him over the phone. And it's just good to have that in our minds for the people who are living alone,
Yeah.
like all year round.
I know you did some food delivery with Siren Song, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Were some of those people were probably isolated, or?
Yeah. That's thanks for bringing that up. That was a really cool opportunity. There were so many restaurants, like on Dante's and Chelan. They were providing meals like once a week for just there. You didn't have to qualify or anything. You just like show up, grab this meal.
So generous.
Yeah, so generous. And they did that for months.
Yeah, like they just stopped like a month ago, I think.
Yeah, and that's a serious outlay of cash. It's a serious outlay of showing up and the physical labor, and that was quite a commitment.
Yeah.
And really just spoke volumes about who they are and what, and it spoke volumes about humanity, right?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Siren Song, they did something similar where they were one day a week were giving pizzas, and people could call up and request a pizza and salad, and then there was a whole army of volunteer drivers, and we were driving pizzas all over Chelan County.
You went up to Bridgeport, right?
Yeah. And so that was just what people are willing to do, how they're willing to show up is really moving.
Yeah.
And inspiring, because when you see that, you think, wow, why are they doing? You kind of get curious, like, why are they doing that? And like, what can I do? They're being part of the solution too, right? And it feels good. So.
We just have like a minute and a half left. The one thing I think we also have talked about is how good this slowdown has been on the environment.
Oh.
Like the coral reef
gosh.
and the whales, and there's been some really amazing stuff. That there's been this massive break, like in Hawaii, like no tourists.
Yeah. So they're seeing all sorts of new activity in the marine life.
Yeah.
Well, in LA, the air pollution was way down. There was like clear skies. Same thing in places in India where they hadn't seen blue skies for months.
Or they
and
hadn't
months.
ever. I think that also maybe a couple generations had never seen this one mountain range, and they could actually see it for the first time in generations.
Yeah. And and it's just like that, something so dramatic kind of shows us what is possible.
Yeah.
If we choose to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, it took like this terrible calamity to reveal that to us, but it's just you can see what's possible.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this up. Great spending time with you again. Thanks for being here, Amy. Appreciate that.
It was fun.
And you know what it's time to do now? Get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You have something to offer this world, and we believe in you.